There are turning points in your financial journey that don't feel dramatic in the moment, but later, you look back and realize that was the day everything shifted. For me, that day wasn't filled with emotion or chaos. Nothing collapsed, nothing exploded, nothing forced me to change. It was quiet, almost forgettable, a moment I might have ignored completely if the consequences weren't so life-changing. It was the day I decided to track my spending for one full month. Just 1 month. Nothing more. No budgeting rules. No spending limits. No pressure. Just awareness. And I had no idea that the numbers waiting for me at the end would shake my identity more than any major financial mistake ever had. Hi, I'm JP, and this is the story of the month everything became visible, and the quiet shock that finally pushed me into financial adulthood. Before that month, my gaze felt normal, at least normal enough. I wasn't irresponsible. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't living beyond my means on purpose. I was just drifting. Small purchases here and there, quick snacks, little comfort buys, coffee runs I forgot the moment they were finished, parking fees, takeaways when I didn't feel like cooking, something for my son, something for work, something I convinced myself I needed. Each swipe felt so small that it barely registered in my mind. It was easy to believe the lie. It's just a few dollars. What difference does it make? And because I didn't see the difference, I didn't feel the impact. But that's the danger of living in a fog. You don't notice the cliff until your toes reach the edge. Tracking my spending wasn't part of some grand plan. It wasn't a New Year's resolution or a financial overhaul. It was curiosity, or maybe a whisper of conviction. One morning I woke up and thought, what if I actually knew where my money went last month? Not roughly, not vaguely, but truthfully. So I opened a blank note and decided, 1 month, every transaction, no judgment, just honesty. It felt simple, almost harmless. People underestimate how small decisions can reshape a life. For 30 days, I tracked everything. Every small purchase, every tap, every it's only a few dollars, every online order, every time I was too tired to cook, every little emotional pick-me-up. And something strange happened. Because I was tracking it, I noticed myself. I noticed how often I swiped without thinking, how quickly small decisions stacked up, how few moments passed between impulses, how spending had become a reflex, not a choice. I wasn't shocked during the month. I wasn't uncomfortable. It almost felt interesting. But the truth isn't loud while you're writing it down. The truth becomes loud when you add it all up. I'll never forget the moment I sat down with that list of transactions. I took out my phone, opened the calculator, took a breath, and started adding. $7, $12, 45, 9, 6, 18, 23. Small numbers, forgettable numbers. But the total kept climbing. 50, 80, 100, 150, 200. Every new subtotal felt heavier. My chest tightened. My stomach dropped. I felt my eyebrows pull together, like my brain was trying to protect me from what it already knew was coming. And when I finally reached the end and pressed equals, I froze. Because the total staring back at me wasn't a little high. It wasn't close to what I expected. It was the exact amount we spent on a full week of groceries. Gone. To nothing purchases, to forgettable swipes, to small, mindless decisions, a week of feeding my family, destroyed by snacks, coffees, and emotional convenience. I re-added it. Same number. Again. Same number. There's a unique pain in realizing you weren't just careless. You were blind. Shock is interesting. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, "How did I let this happen?" And that's what hit me hardest. I wasn't overspending on luxuries. I wasn't buying gadgets or toys. I wasn't living beyond my means in obvious ways. I was leaking. Slowly. Quietly. Consistently. It wasn't a financial problem. It was an awareness problem, a discipline problem, an identity problem. And here's the truth that cut deepest. I thought I was better than this, but the numbers didn't lie. But something unexpected happened next. The shock didn't crush me, it energized me. Because for the first time, the problem was visible. And visible problems can be solved. There's a different kind of strength that comes when you stop guessing and start seeing. I knew where the money was going. I knew what needed to change. I knew what the enemy looked like. And it wasn't the bills or the income or the responsibilities. It was me. My little habits. My unaware moments. My emotional impulses. My just this once decisions. And realizing that didn't make me feel hopeless. It made me feel powerful. Because if I was the problem, then I could become the solution. This moment didn't make me disciplined overnight. It didn't give me a perfect system. It didn't fix my financial life instantly. But it did something more important. It changed who I saw in the mirror. I stopped seeing someone who should be fine. I started seeing someone who needed awareness, needed accountability, needed honesty, needed structure. And for the first time in my adult life, I became someone who refuses to live financially blind. This wasn't the identity shift from episode 7. That one came from faith. This one came from truth. And truth, when you finally face it, sets a new standard for your life. If you've been avoiding your numbers, if you've been living in that quiet financial fog, if you've told yourself the small things don't matter, I understand that. I lived that. But the month everything became visible wasn't the month I felt ashamed. It was the month I woke up. Because once you see the truth clearly, you can finally begin building a future that won't collapse under the weight of denial. Real journey, real lessons, real freedom. I'm JP, and I'll see you in the next one.